right. It says we are now live streaming, so I'm going to
We
give it a
are
second to make sure that it is working. Go
okay.
into my control room and open that up so I can see chat. Okay. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'll give everybody a chance to catch their notifications because we did not announce this.
Surprise, surprise. I mean, it's nice to have surprises show up in your life every now and then, right?
It is. I like it. I
Me
like
too. Me too.
it.
An impromptu moment between us.
Yeah, it's nothing unusual for us.
No, it's not. Sister from other misters.
Right. Oh my goodness. Um, it's been a day with the leap year and then the equinox, right?
Yes, like
We're
I
coming
told you,
in now, so I'm
my
thankful.
life upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like,
should put the link at the top of the chat. What is the link to our channeling? It's
um,
like givebutter.com
it is gift butter.
/ my name, right?
Yes.
Okay. Here
Yes.
we go. And it's
Thank you
this
everybody for being here.
Sunday. This Sunday. Yay.
Easter Sunday. So exciting to be hearing from Yeshua and Mary Magdalene on Easter Sunday. I was thinking, Pamela, over the years, Easter when you have kids and you have family and you're so busy and yes, we connect, but there's usually a moment where I would say to myself, gosh, I wish I would have connected deeper, or I would have spent more time, or on my own. And when we have family and children and activities and everything, sometimes those holidays go by in such a hurry. And I'm just so grateful that you are spending the time on your Easter Sunday to be connecting to Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and bringing that to all of us. So
Yeah,
thank
of
you for the
course.
benefit of the kids.
Yeah. I wanted to introduce you guys here on my channel today. We'll give everybody a few more minutes to get their notifications. I wanted to introduce you to a really powerful charity and really close friend of mine for several years. I want to introduce Teresa Vigorino of momshouse.org and
Momshouseforchildren.org. Sorry
excuse me,
about that. Yeah.
momshouseforchildren.org. I better
Yeah.
go in there and yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to correct that.
I would love it to be momshouse.org. That's the vision that I saw, but it was taken. So we had to add the 4 children. And it is for the children.
There you go.
So it makes sense.
Right. Oh my goodness. So we've been deciding to do this for a while to do an Easter channeling of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I typically do that every year anyway. So this year I'm doing that and for a small amount of money. People can watch it live and be there and hopefully get your questions asked after we do a general channeling for what messages he has about the Easter energy for 2024. Then we're going to go in and talk, more and
I love
answer your questions. And that's what we're going to be doing this Sunday. What time did we say it was going to be again?
10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern.
All right. 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And everybody else is in between. You guys do your own time zones.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love you, but it's too late in the evening for me to think.
And once they go into that landing page, Pamela, and they make their donation, they'll be registered for it. They'll get the Zoom link, and then I think a couple hours after the channeling, we'll be able to provide the recording for those that signed up for it.
Wonderful. And all proceeds go to momshouseforchildren.org. And
Yes.
I wanted to talk to you about that. Like, how did you go about? Because we were friends when you started this charity, and I was
We
following it closely, and we had so many sit downs about what it was going to look like, and it has grown so much. Um,
It has, and we're expanding. And really, when you start anything like a global nonprofit in the pandemic, because remember, we started right smack dab in the pandemic, although we had talked about it for years. And honestly, the vision of this began when I was a little girl. I have known since it was either 8 or 9 that I would be working in Africa and I would be working for the orphaned and vulnerable children. And as you know, Pamela, I was raised by an orphan. I know what it was like to be raised by someone who never received any love
Mhm.
and how that impacted me. And then just, literally God guiding me to Africa. It just took me a long time to get it together. I had my own kids, I had my own life and struggles, and, all of the things that were happening with me with my health, as you know. And I just decided, like, if not now, when?
Yeah.
And God led me. I mean, the Spirit led me to who are my regional directors, where we're working, how we operate. And we started in South Africa. And then through my travels to shamanism and the Amazon jungle with plant medicines, which came advice from you years ago, I
Mhm.
also began to spread into the Amazon jungle. And now we're moving into Mozambique. So it's a busy job. And we're all over. Those places are far apart.
Busy, busy job, and all of your employees are volunteer only because the charity is so small right now, and you're
Yes.
supporting as many villages as you can, not just in
Yeah.
Africa, but in many places.
Yeah.
And last I heard, you guys were digging wells in
Mhm.
places that were experiencing severe drought, right? And that was really, really wonderful.
And even like in the Amazon jungle where there's tons of water and tons of rain, they don't have clean water. So that's our next project, is bringing the clean water to our village in Peru. But we, are doing that in South Africa. We're about to do it in Mozambique. So,
Wow.
if you don't have a way to collect the rainwater, you're drinking water in Mozambique. They're drinking water out of the puddles with the livestock and the elephants and all the animals. And there's, 50% or more of hospitalizations and actually death in children is caused from waterborne illnesses.
Clean
In the
water
jungle,
is
they
so
get
important.
cholera. In the jungle, they get cholera quite often. And there's just every kind of parasite, bacteria, virus, chemical.
And we here in these first world countries, like we don't even think about cholera. Like who has thought about cholera in so long? We're
50
so
years.
amazingly privileged and blessed. And this is just
We
a
are.
really good way and to support this charity, because we were talking about what that $22 donation actually breaks
Mhm.
down with, and it's quite a
Yeah.
bit. Do you care to go over that with us?
Yeah. So, like, the first thing we do, and you know me, I'm a foodie and I'm a cook. The
Yeah.
first thing we do is feed the kids
Yeah.
because they live in a constant state of hunger. And we know about the metrics of, their growth being stunted, how it affects your immune system, how hard it is to learn when you're hungry. And there's just hunger and it's real and it's a daily struggle to find food to eat. So the first thing we do is create a process for food supply.
Mhm.
And while we're doing that, we are also working with the village tribal elders. It's all tribal. There's still, their government system within the villages are tribal in the Amazon and in Africa. And
Mhm.
so we work with the tribal elders and we build leadership because we want to empower them to eventually take those programs over themselves.
Mm.
So we immediately start farming. We
Okay.
work towards creating a sustainable food solution so that we won't always have to be sending food supply, but where we can at least supplement because, the bottom line is in these places, they have very limited variety of food. Type
Wow.
2 diabetes is epidemic by the time people are 30 years old. So then you have that problem later.
Wow. Wow.
The overabundance of sugars that they eat. So, that just wears your pancreas out over time. So we work at like providing produce and proteins and, a more balanced diet, which is really a luxury in the places that we work. So food
Yeah.
supply is big.
Yeah.
22 bucks in Africa, the 22.22, you're feeding 2 kids
Mhm.
the whole month.
Wow.
In Peru, because the exchange rate for South African rand to US dollars is 19 to 1. In Mozambique, it's 69 to 1. In the Amazon, it's about 3 to 1.
Wow.
Amazon is so expensive, Pamela. I Oh my gosh, it just breaks my heart. I don't know how they survive because fuel prices are the same as here in the US.
Mhm,
The average person, if they have employment,
mhm,
which normally they don't, it's I don't know what the unemployment rates are, over 50%. They make maybe 200 US dollars a year, and one chicken is 10 US dollars. So they're hungry. So we're working to expand the farm in Peru as well, but the $22 will feed a Peruvian child for a month.
mhm,
In the poverty statistics, we know that that's a problem. So we're already developing, plans for long term to lift them up out of poverty
mhm,
through selling wares and crafts and building businesses. And, we have a long term vision of how we're going to stay there.
mhm.
In Africa, we deal with orphaned and vulnerable. Now, vulnerable is what we have in Peru, but there's not as many orphans, probably because of shamanism and plant medicine. But in Africa, from HIV and AIDS, there is an exorbitant amount in Mozambique and South Africa of orphan children. About 20% of them are HIV positive.
Wow.
So, caring for them is a big deal. And so we're building what we call the dream centers to have a place for these children to be before and after school. If they're having a sick day, we have a sick ward. We have age appropriate classrooms where we're going to work with the Department of Education to establish skills training and testing. And like the orphan and vulnerable population are traumatized. They're not learning because of the traumatized mind, as well as if they hadn't been through that experience.
Wow.
There's a lot we have to do.
Mm,
And it's going to take all of us. That's the way I look at it.
mm.
We can all do something. And so I thank you for doing this for us so that we can really, go further, really get those programs consistent. It's been up and down because of the pandemic, because of inflation, being a newer org and all of that. It's been really hard for us, I'll be honest, harder than I ever thought it would be.
My goodness. And it's just been, how many years have you been at it now since the beginning of this charity?
Well, we got our 501(c)(3) July 1st of 2020,
Yeah.
to put that into perspective. But, the plans, were a couple years before that actually of how we were going to do it. I didn't know anything about it other than this vision and dream that God had put on my heart that I carried with me my whole life. And if you are one of those people that has there, that aching deep within them and that itch you can't scratch
Yeah.
because there's this thing you got to do that you keep putting off, do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have
It
just
changes
been
you.
a prime example of that because I remember when this concept finally, you had it in your heart, but actually speaking about it and doing it and creating time for it. It was during a channeling that we were experiencing with Jesus when the idea came out. I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't know if you remember that because it was such a long time ago. I was like,
Didn't
we were
remember that.
actually channeling Jesus together when you said, I'm gonna do this. You just
Oh my,
stopped and you said, I know I'm gonna do this. And you were just going through all these fears, how I'm gonna have the money, how I'm gonna raise the funds, how I'm gonna raise the funds by myself.
yeah.
I don't have any employees. I can't afford to pay them. Like, all these fears were coming out. And we started channeling Jesus, and he started saying these, as he typically does, these beautifully compassionate things about grace and how sometimes he just has to take over. And he said this story to you. I was just wondering if you remember the story
Didn't,
about footprints in the sand. Uh,
yes, I remember
yeah,
that.
the
Um,
footprints in the sand. And he said, but you know the story, footprints in the sand, and I'm
yeah.
carrying you.
Okay, carry me again, Yeshua.
Yeah. So we need a little bit of that carrying again. Yeah.
Well, we all need it. We all need a
Yeah.
lift every now and then because it has been hard because there was so much to learn.
Mhm.
And I feel like I just went to college for this. And I'm so grateful for the people the Spirit has brought to the team and that has brought to assist us and believes in this with their own heart and soul. And so I thank everyone who has already registered for this event. I went in and thanked everybody today. And I was like, what an incredible group of people that are so happy to be a part of this and to contribute. to these children that need it so desperately. So I just like hats off, and you have a place in my heart and in my family, the Mom's House family, for supporting us. And I'm excited about the messages that are going to come through for each and every one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought that I would, and there's some people in chat talking about people struggling in other areas of the world, and I want you to know that we are deeply aware of that, and I can only do so much as one person, and Teresa can only do so much as one person, and I'm sure that, um, you know, you can be aware that we're doing everything we can, and just one step at a time. Maybe Teresa's charity can one day reach Australia. She's doing everything she can. Maybe she can reach places in the US too that have some extreme problems, here in
Yeah.
our own country. Um, but right now, her heart is with the Africa and with the Peruvians and some places in Brazil and various places all around the world. So we wanted to just give some love to you from everyone that's struggling right now, not just in these third world countries, but in every country. And
Yeah.
please know that even though this particular event is geared towards people that are right now in Africa and in impoverished places, that we are aware that everyone struggles, and she's doing her best to have enough donations and support and funds to be able to reach everywhere. And but she is
That's right.
one person right now, one person with like what, 5 volunteers, like they don't even get
We
paid.
don't have a lot. We don't have a lot. My God, they work hard, and we have we have impacted maybe 3,500 children, and I look at them as my own children. And just to speak to that, we do have God's given me the vision of being all over the world, and if I could do it now, I would. Are you kidding me? This is what I live for. I want every child to be loved on this planet. I want every child to have clean water. I want every child to have food supply. I want every child to have dreams and to have the support and the love to see it through. And I know that we'll get there in time. It's just, not been easy. So thank you for supporting us now, and join us as we continue to go to further locations, including in the US. And I think I told you, Pamela, I've already had the vision. God's already shown me that it would be on some of the poorest Native American reservations that we have here. That's the most marginalized group of people we have in the US. And we already have our sights set on a couple of those reservations. And, again, it just takes time to get your processes together and your team organized, and, to begin those programs. And it takes the money.
Yeah, yeah.
It takes money. Yes. So thank you, everybody, for your donation.
Okay. All right. Um, Now that I have cleared the chat of all these unfortunate comments of people reminding us of all the other places in the world that struggle, that's breaking my heart. And I'm like, I know people are getting stabbed in New York City. I'm well aware, but right now we're talking about Africa and Peru and some places that are really deeply impoverished in a third world way, drought, famine, things that are just really, I, you
No
know,
way to improve their lives if
there's
someone
no
doesn't
way
come
to
in and help
improve
them.
it were it not
Mhm.
for charities like yours. So I just wanted to know that as much as we, our compassion is with everyone, but right now this event is geared towards the impoverished countries and
This is the soul calling that came to me as a little
massive
girl.
amounts of genocide going on and so many things. Like you are risking your life to go into these places, and hopefully one day also you and your team will go into other places in the US that equally need help.
Yes, yes, that's the idea.
Yeah.
I go where God opens the doors for me to go. Where the
Yeah.
Spirit says this is where you're going, I say okay, and that's where I go. And so to God be the glory, and we'll get there. We're new. We started in a pandemic, and we've had to claw and scratch for everything, but yet we've made impact. And so thank you for your support, Pamela, and your prayers and your energies that you've sent to me to keep me going.
Mhm. Yeah, of course. That's what friends are for. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Um, so we wanted to do a brief channeling and answer your questions and facilitate and kind of look at the chat and talk about it and get some of my favorite spirit team here, Jesus and Mary, been around me and been around Teresa for a very long time as a channel as well. So I thought that we would hand over the situation to chat and let people bring in some of their questions if you have time, Teresa.
I
Um,
do. I do.
um, to bring in some of these questions and kind of give you guys a taste of the self-channeling that you're going to get. I tend to be a little bit play by ear, go with the flow. Sometimes I trance, sometimes I don't. I highly suspect I'll be in and out of trance a good bit because I appreciate trance so strongly. But today, because I'm having to watch the chat, I'm probably going to be your conduit because I'm waiting
Mhm.
for your questions. So we're going to open up the floor to your questions now, either for Teresa with momshouse4children.org, or you can facilitate your questions if you want. To speak with Yeshua or Mary Magdalene, and we can pull them in and have them answer your questions. Incredible opportunity, kind of pre-channeling,
Yes,
a
I love it.
pre-channeling channeling.
I love it. I love it.
On
Come on,
the
Jesus.
fly.
This is my jam.
So those of you here today, we have opened up the floor to questions, and I don't see them coming in yet. Unfortunately, I'm watching, and let me see if I can click live chat where all messages are visible and see if I see any questions there. And once we start getting some questions from people in chat, we will go forward. YouTube chat is so slow.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's nothing there yet. It's just hi from Belgium, hi from the UK, and all the highs going on right now.
Hello, everybody from wherever you are. Well, maybe I can ask a question
Okay.
for Yeshua to speak to the concerns that people have expressed about the other plights of children around the world and the genocides and all of that. If he can speak to, um, you know, about all of the suffering that the children are going through in the world and how we can make the most impact individually.
Mm. He says, your prayers go faster than the speed of light, and grace carries your heart to all of the beautiful places where love needs to arise powerfully. And we need people, just as you need people, boots on the ground during a war. You're not fighting, but you are remembering peace.
Mm.
And when everything seems to be fighting you, when everything seems to be putting you in danger, when everything seems to be so frightening, it's important to remember that you have boots on the ground in the beautiful, appropriate places, that you have pockets of grace all around the world and earth angels that are like war medics. And when you're feeling as if you're being shot at from all directions, when you're feeling torn, when you're feeling beaten down, those brave, courageous, graceful souls step in when you feel as if you absolutely have no more physical or mental strength to give. And we need this. We need these boots on the ground for people who are willing to be channels of grace. Remember, love flies faster than the speed of light, and compassion is what is required now at the individual level. It is important that you, when you cannot give financially, you give with a prayer. When you
Mm.
cannot give with a prayer, you ask someone to pray with you. When you cannot ask someone to pray with you, you ask someone to pray for you. When you cannot ask someone to pray for you, pray with Mother Earth herself.
Mm.
Pray like the birds do. They worry not when the worms come in the spring. They know based upon their instinct precisely where to fly and when to swoop down and receive nourishment. They wait on the appropriate vibrations. They trust themselves. They have patience. They understand that they follow the same cycles of nature as Gaia herself. You are no different. The birds worry not when the storms come through their lands. They worry not when their nests are destroyed. They worry not about from where they will receive their next meal. because birds experience the instinctive levels of grace that bring them through all practical realities to help them understand that they will always be cared for by Mother Earth herself. That is faith. And this is what we need more of individually and together as a human society and world.
Thank you, Yeshua.
You're welcome.
Beautiful.
Mm. Mm. Me today when channeling.
Mhm.
Eyes have been funny today when channeling. Oh, thank you for the
Mhm.
super chats. I'll just pass them over to her. I didn't want any super chats, but this is great because we'll just give them over to Mom's House for Children. Let's see.
Right.
Let's see what kind of questions we have now. We have some questions coming in. Well, what do you think about this question? Because you run a nonprofit sector, this
Mhm.
question says, how will the nonprofit sector evolve over the next few years? How do you think is going to happen?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things. First, people are really skeptical of nonprofits because
They are, yeah.
there have been those that have taken advantage. So nonprofits live under an incredible amount of scrutiny. And I believe that because of that, there's more nonprofits that find ways to support their salaries and operating budget
Mhm.
so that when they do fundraisers, they don't have to take any of a portion of that from the fundraising. It can go straight to the programs and projects. And we're working on that. And that's not easy to accomplish. So I think that there's more nonprofits going that direction, but that's hard to do, like I said. I also think that people need to understand that the people running the nonprofits and working for the nonprofits also need to make a living.
Mhm.
There's a lot of back and forth with when you receive funds from donors on, I mean, the scrutiny that you're under is way more than any other business you can partake in. And so you have to keep your operating budget really, really, really low. And so people that are working really hard to change the world are living below the poverty level themselves here in America. And I think that needs to change. I think that everyone deserves, their time and their heart and their efforts, are valuable, just as valuable as if you're with a Fortune 500 company. So there is a movement also to bring awareness that the people that are brilliant and creative and loving and want to do this also need to make a living, and
Mhm.
that it's
I
okay.
fully agree. And that's okay. Like, how else
Yeah.
if you're spending 150% of your time, because I know you,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
I've seen you completely like be almost on death's door at the hospital because you've worked so hard and you're like, why am I so sick? And Jesus is like, stop, work, rest, eat.
Well,
And
you
then
know me, I've always got one foot. I'm like, I don't have just a foot in the grave. I got like a whole leg and another half a leg most of the time.
yeah,
But the jungle straightens me out. The
yes, it
shamans help me
does.
a lot with
Yeah,
that.
Mother Ayahuasca does her work.
She does. She does.
I found this to be an
Yeah.
interesting question, and I wasn't going to take it, but he said, no, you need to take it. And the question is, how many awakened people are in Africa? And then the Lilith in me just got triggered, and she was like, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, oh, so how many do you think are awakened? And then Mary chimed in and she said, there are more awakened people on the entire continent of Africa than in Canada, the UK, and the US.
Mm. Wow. You know why I think that is because, the indigenous just have a natural spirituality. They weren't, it's a different way of being raised. And I experienced this in the jungle too. And I love the education that I receive from these peoples that we work with. And they have such a natural connection through nature to spirit.
Mhm.
Yes, there's been all kinds of religion that's come through there. I can speak about that another time about what the influence it's had on shamanism, especially. But what I notice is they have a natural connection because of the rhythms of nature, just exactly what Jesus was talking about earlier.
Right. Right. And I don't feel that we're going to be able to handle all the world's problems in one chat, but I did want him to address these difficult questions about many other problems that we are going through in the world, because he's very aware
Mm.
that many people have strong difficulties. So this question came up really powerfully in his heart, and I he wants to answer it. It says, how to help children who are affected by toxic foods, pesticides, and other damage from our current healthcare system, kids with severe autism and other disabilities that require supervision. So I feel like maybe this like two different answers here, because there was a lot of pain clumped into one paragraph there.
Yeah.
But he says for children with severe autism, his answer is pray that you understand their world.
Mm.
Pray that you tune in to the world that they are already living. Pray that you change, not them.
That's a goodie.
That's a keeper.
That's a goodie. Write that one down. In all situations, really, right?
Yeah. And in regards like children with disabilities that require supervision, he says there are entire systems that require change. And I was a revolutionary being. I was aware that that change was required then, and I am aware that that change is required now.
Mm.
That change takes prayer. That change takes faith. That change takes you no longer participating in painful systems that tell you that your own should not supervise, that tell mothers that they have to go back to work instead of supervising their own children, that tell
Mm.
fathers that work is more important than supervision.
Mm.
That was not a part of my world. Children were prioritized in my world. Entire systems are collapsing around your feet. Don't let anyone else tell you that you cannot supervise, love, care for, educate, and shelter your own children. That is priority
Mm.
above anything else. Let's start there. Let's change these systems together. And for those of you who have strong voices in darker places of these broken governmental confines and systems, you are the light. You are the voice that needs to speak. You are the person that brings new law to these lands, that lobbies for these changes. And you are the voice of the young people, speaking for the young people. Make the changes. You're in these dark places for a reason. Who he's talking about specifically, he's giving me this vision of younger people who are perhaps becoming lobbyists, perhaps entering the political realm right now while it's in kind of a really tumultuous space, a very dark time. But
Mm-hmm.
there are many loving, young, compassionate, powerhouse star seeds, Mary says. She says there are some powerhouse star seeds coming into governments and changing things from the inside out. And some of them are
Wow.
very quiet, and some of them are powerhouses of change who are stomping through the halls, demanding and commanding change. And these are your babies, Gen Xers. So
Mm-hmm.
your babies, she says. The Gen X children are making these changes. And
Got a couple of those.
yeah, and children of millennials right now, these are the children that are making these changes. So don't be afraid to send your children into those very dark times, because they are the light that will change the darkness.
Mm.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. Um, I don't think we're going to get to the other part of the question because there's just so much in that. Let's see. I was trying to go in order, but the chat's jumping down all over the place. And thank you guys for your donations.
Yes, thank you.
To momshouseforchildren.org, and it's givebutter.com/Pamela Aaralyn. That's the link to sign up for the channeling. Yes, there will be replays for those of you who cannot make it live.
I'll be going to Africa just in 2 weeks. I'll be in Mozambique. April 9th, I'll be there for a week, and then I go into Pumalanga, South Africa. And so I will be uploading pictures and videos. Please follow us. We need more love on social media, and need more family, because everyone that, to me, that has come to this organization, whether it's a donor, a supporter, you have a gift, a talent, you can throw a party for us or something, like, you truly become in my heart and my family, and with all of us on the team, and the children we look at as they really are part of our family. They're our children, and so many of them are orphans. So I am so excited to be back there very soon, and you will see this food supply happening, and we will take lots of pictures and videos so that you guys can stay informed about what good that you did through this event. So thank you.
Yeah. This is a beautiful question. It says, how can I exude more love and compassion? Let's see what he says. Actually, Mary wants to answer it, she says. She says, practice the art of compassionate listening. Compassion is a grace that deserves an entire lifetime's worth of practice. And don't worry, it's easy for those who are raised by compassionate mothers to naturally extend compassion and mothering and love to the world. I had a compassionate mother. Ishwa had a compassionate mother. It may be easy for us, particularly in the space of light and love, which we now send to you. Be gentle on your broken hearts, because how can you give what wasn't presented to you? It requires practicing the compassion, and start where your feet land. Put your boots on the ground, reach out. If there is a place that activates your heart and calls you and makes you cry, you can begin. If you don't have money to donate, as Ishwa and I did not often have, donate a hug, donate a prayer, send a blessing, donate your time, donate your efforts, volunteer for various programs who are raising the funds, donate your service. That is the most compassionate thing you can do in situations that are so poverty ridden, where children are being hurt. Go in and hold them, hug them, mother them. And when you can't do that, be aware that you are doing absolutely all that you can. From your heart, prayers are more powerful than anything else. Remember that. And do not be compassionless towards yourself. You cannot give from an empty well. We hold your heart in ours in these dark, turbulent times, and we will give you that love that you have lacked. We will hold a space for your darkest fears, and then you will no longer have an empty heart and an empty well.
Wow, that's beautiful. I just want to say, Pamela, I might have told you this a long time ago when I was with ayahuasca, and Jesus comes to me quite often, in ceremony, as do you, and other light beings and Christ consciousness beings and ETs and all kinds of things. He taught me about forgiveness, and that the first step in forgiving, and I'm talking about people that have really caused you trauma and pain and suffering.
Mm,
And you know my story, so you know that that was a big part of my life for a long time. And the only way really to reach unconditional love is through forgiveness. But he
mhm,
told me, he said, but first, before you can forgive, you
mm,
must have compassion for whatever that person went through
yeah,
that took them away from their divinity and who they were, that could be a perpetrator or an abuser or a traumatizer of some way, a victimizer,
mhm,
that they were so far away from their true identity that you can have compassion for that in that person.
yeah,
So, and then once you have that compassion, that grows and blooms into forgiveness. And what I experienced was truly divine unconditional love for the people that caused me the most harm in my life.
right.
It was a long process, but I did learn it. So I love it that she spoke on that today. Thank you for whoever asked that question.
Yeah. Um, I just want to answer this
Yeah.
because it really riles me up, and that Lilith in me gets so heated when this question comes.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to take challenge and have one of them answer it. Let me see if I can find the question again. Um, it says, does Yeshua have, the person says, does Yeshua have an opinion on LGBTQ and non-binary people? Is it inherently wrong, like religion says? Mary says, is it wrong to breathe?
Mm.
Breath, when you're breathing and you're sharing space, you begin to share love. And when you can see love beyond gender, when you can see love beyond your sexual organs,
Mm.
that is agape. And Jesus chimed in and said, how is agape wrong?
Mm.
And would I ever say that love is wrong? I wouldn't attribute it to gender at all. I would say it's beyond sexuality, it is beyond gender. I suppose that answers that question.
Yes, it does.
Mm. Someone had a question for you that I saw earlier, Teresa.
Okay.
If you have to go, if I'm holding you, please just say
No,
so.
no, no, I'm good.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
I'm honored and blessed to be here.
Um, it says, this question says, I have been watching many YouTubes on how people are turning deserts into places where they can grow crops and get clean water. Will
Mhm.
this happen for the areas you are working out in Africa?
Well, and I know, and I don't know if they're referring to seeding the sky with chemicals to create rain, or if they were in a deep forested area and they bring in and plant trees that really does create microclimate. And yes, we do that. Obviously, in the Amazon jungle, we don't have to do that. But like I said, there's plenty of water, sometimes too much water. But most people don't have a way to collect it, or if they do, it's temporary because it dries up so fast as much as it rains. And then they drink from the river, which is horribly polluted. So in Africa, specifically in South Africa, they have deforested in the regions that we work. It is a very common thing because they have no electricity. They have no way to cook without firewood. They have no way to heat. They have no way to boil the water, so everything they do is with the firewood.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because this area is outside the big park, Kruger Park. And when you're in Kruger Park, it can be raining there
Yeah,
because it's been protected, it's a preserve. So very tall trees, very big trees, very wooded. And then you go 5 minutes out of the park and it is just dry as a bone.
right.
So more and more NGOs are coming in to plant to create that microclimate because the trees seed the sky for rain. And we are one of those. Good
Okay.
question.
Wonderful. And that takes speaking of what he said in the channeling earlier about boots on the ground,
Yeah.
that takes a lot of boots on the ground.
We have
Because
teams
when
on
you're
the ground.
there,
Mhm.
I don't feel like there's a little, not even a three-star hotel that you can shack up in with internet. Like when you're there, your hands are, people don't
I'm
understand. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I'm there with the kids and bouncing around on dirt roads, and
yeah,
I'm the
in your
world's
Jeep.
worst traveler. Feel terrible most days. I'm like, God, give me the strength. First of all, it's the from San Francisco. It is the furthest place away you can go is
Yeah.
East, Southern, and Eastern Africa. So it's very difficult for me with my health conditions and my crooked spine and blah 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 that I got going on. But somehow, by the grace of God and the power of love gets me there. And I hit the floor running. There's no time for me to like get caught up with the 10-hour time zone difference. No,
Mhm.
I am there and I'm out in the villages and love just that love and grace just carries me through. And then I collapse when I get home, as you know.
Speaking of horrible travel, I don't think I could ever travel to Africa with you because we'd be in that Jeep, and you know how I am. I'm like, I gotta pee.
Oh, girl, remember we're sisters that way. Yes. And you know
Yeah,
what?
but when you have to pee when you're out and
I
in that area, it's like, yeah, but there's lions over there. Like,
Well,
where do
well,
you
they
want to
have,
go?
unless you're in the park, they've now have them in the preserve and with
Okay.
electric fence, but still, I've even had to have the safari guy pull over so that I can go. But you know what? Somehow I've stayed alive. You could
Okay.
tell.
Because that would be me. I'd be out in the bush somewhere and I'd be like, what's that? Is that a wild
A
thing? Is that a
leopard,
hyena?
a
Like,
leopard stalking
what
you.
is going to get me? You know, while I'm peeing? Because this is how it's gonna happen.
Well, the safari guides are with you close by with,
Yeah,
protection. So
yeah,
you'd make it. You'd be fine.
yeah. Oh my goodness.
It's worth it though, because the love that's there, and they say
Mhm.
when you step foot in Africa, anywhere on the continent, you feel as if you just got home. It's the seat of
I
humanity,
hear that a lot about Africa,
and it's true. And it's
and
true.
I want to know more about, all these white privileged people like go to Africa and they're like, that is my home. It is like, it's like, it feels like it's like the root chakra of the planet.
I could live in Africa very easily. I just have my children close by, and I have to work here in the States and everything too. But I imagine I'll be there. I'll be there 2 months this
Mhm.
year, and it probably will expand for the programs to be in Mozambique and South Africa.
But what
There
is that
is,
feeling that you're talking about that you feel like it's your home? Like, what is that?
it's
What
in the
is that?
soul. It's like, whoa. It just grounds you. There is like this happiness that percolates. I mean, my business partner is there now, John, who's on my board, and I'm helping him with another business in South Africa. And he's like, oh my gosh, when are you going to get here? Like, oh, Africa. I think it brings you back to, I would say root chakra is a great way to describe it. To what's real, to what's important, to nature, to the animal world.
And
It's
now you
so
have to take me.
beautiful.
I'm just like,
Yeah, I have to take you. But it's just I think it's a connection that's different to humanity.
Mhm,
It's different. The jungle, people ask me all the time, where's your favorite place? You spend so much time in the jungle, so much time in Africa. Where's your favorite place? And I said, well, Africa's called me since I was 8. So that's like etched in my soul
mhm,
forever.
mhm,
The Amazon, I've learned to love so much that it's captured my heart. And so it's different. Both of them are different, but they both have this connection to, you know, uh, to nature and to the spirit realm that's lost a little bit in our Western societies and in cities
mhm,
specifically.
mhm.
That's been my experience.
Okay. Well,
And it's the simple things, watching a bird go by, seeing one of those blue butterflies go by, s- a sloth, a lion, whatever it is, the feel of the air when you're in nature. It's just, it's like going home.
and I think that we, particularly in America,
Mhm.
But in many more urbanized, suburbanized places, we forget about that connection.
We
And that
do.
is the cycle of life from which
Yes.
we were birthed. We are birthed from the same elements as all the animals and insects
Yeah.
and trees around us. All we are a part of that same cycle.
Mhm.
But in a modern world, we have attempted to put ourselves, so we estrange ourselves from the cycle, Mary says. We estrange ourselves from the natural cycle that perhaps people in third world countries will never do, because nature is their light, it is their love, it is their religion. They don't have to have a religion because nature
That's
is the goddess, it is
that's
life,
right. I
right?
agree. And
And
you know what's interesting is you don't have kids on antidepressant medicines there.
right, right. I mean, when I have seen videos of your kids and pictures of the kids when you go there and visit them, even though some of them look really hungry,
Yeah, they
you
are.
know, and they look like their eyes are jaundiced, and like their bellies are, extended, distended stomach because of
Mhm.
like long periods of time with no food. And
And parasitic activity from dirty
yeah,
water
yeah,
and
and the parasitic
infection and
activity range
HIV with
from
the
diarrhea,
jaundice.
from, yeah, from all the cholera and everything that's going on. And then, but they are smiling. I
Yeah.
don't see like panic attacks or anxiety disorders. They are always smiling.
Yes, that simple things make them very happy. And it's interesting. I've had a lot of conversations with team members about how much I've learned from them, more than I can teach them. And we have raised our children, I'm guilty of it too, of materialism, commercialism, the whole vibration and energy of getting, of
Mhm.
getting the next new thing and the next iPhone and the next game and the next blah, 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 whatever it is. And it continues. And it's really a bottomless pit
Yeah.
of trying to feel fulfilled by the great what's next of something you can buy.
Mhm.
And there, they can't really buy anything.
Mhm.
And so it's kicking the ball around. It's the women, preparing a meal together for the children. There's a lot of community in each of the villages that we work. And I see this camaraderie. Not that the children aren't traumatized and have some depression and that kind of thing from sadness from losing parents and other family members,
Mhm.
but they don't have this, they're not bored, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, right? Right.
And they
Our
don't have
kids like lose
television.
their phone for 5 minutes, and they're like, "Oh, when do I get my phone?
But
Oh,
I'm
mom,
gonna
I
die
don't know what to
without my
do."
game. No, 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 it's not like that at all.
And
Anything they receive is a privilege, it's a luxury, and it's a blessing. So they have had no choice in life but to find internal happiness
Mhm.
with
Wow.
nothing physically.
Wow.
Yet they have everything because that's one of the greatest lessons. Here in America, people are trying to find out how to be happy
Mhm.
because we've looked at lifestyle, at the bank account, at what car you're driving. And I'm not speaking against having financial abundance. I can't wait.
Well,
The
it
more I
looks
have, the more I'm going to give
like,
away,
yeah, yeah.
And so I'm
You have
like,
to
bring
have
it
it to be
on.
able to give it. Absolutely. And we cannot give from an empty well, as Jesus said
Yeah,
so beautifully in the earlier portion of these channeled questions and answers. And it appears, speaking of abundance, that some people are wanting to know how they can volunteer for you in chat. So, um, yeah, so maybe
we
you guys
love
want
that.
to, you maybe
We're,
want to
we're,
go on over to momshouseforchildren.org and shoot
yeah,
her an email, and she will definitely tell you what she needs.
exactly. So it's Teresa with an H, THERESA at momshouseforchildren.org.
Yep, there you go.
It will come to me.
Find out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You.
Mm. Speaking of vibrations and such high vibrations coming around everybody in chat tonight, and such loving vibrations coming from this channeling as well. And someone in chat is asking, what is the best way to lift oneself to the highest vibration? And I just I would like for you to answer that from an
Mhm.
African child's perspective. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I will say the highest vibration that I've experienced in my life is by giving love
Mhm.
and expressing love for really at the beginning strangers, right? We're not strangers anymore. We don't even speak the same language, but the love vibration, that's the language that we speak to each other. And in the Amazon as well. And I will say that that has been the most humbling, the most beautiful. It's a celebration for me when I come back and I see those kids and those women that take care of them. There is nothing better that I could experience in my life than that.
Well, I knew you would say that. And Mary said, being of loving service, no matter the state you are in, no matter how you feel, when you begin to fill your body and mind with grace, you are no longer that empty well.
Mm,
When you begin to fill with grace, even if you don't know what grace is or what it does, it is the essence of love that is provided by the Christ itself.
mm,
It is the Christ consciousness. When you can send out a simple affirmation or prayer that you become an open channel of grace for the world,
mm,
that is the most humble prayer that you can pray.
mm.
And then you will immediately be full and you will serve. When you are in service, that is the highest vibration.
Pamela, I'll never forget this ceremony down in the jungle. And Jesus was showing me all the places that we would go and how to that I never had to be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the most destitute looking place, and maybe they had never seen a Caucasian before, but not to worry. Like that by hugging and there's a lot of superstition about hugging people. You could pick up dark energies, blah, 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 like some of the shamans teach that. But I was shown, no, it's quite the opposite. This injection of love that I'm giving you, which that's what happened that evening, you are going to go be love, and that love is going to transmute the negative. And there is a lot of negative when people are suffering and they're hungry, right? There's a lot of desperation that happens. And so we can all be that for each other. You don't have to go all the way to Africa. And then Jesus said, look, Teresa, you're not just here for Mom's House for Children. You are here to wake people up to the plight of the children, the global children who have it the hardest. They are the most at risk. They're the most vulnerable. And there's 153 million orphans on this planet and counting,
Yeah.
especially what's happening in the Middle East. So we can all do something. And whether it's with me and this organization or another one, but if we all, especially the Westerners, could make an effort together to
Mm-hmm.
change this world. And I've always said you can change the heart of a 5-year-old. Try changing the heart of a 55-year-old. The way we change this world is through loving the children.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And we can do it.
Mm.
Bit by bit, child by child, village by village.
Yeah. This is interesting. They both wanted to talk about this question. It said, if we all focus on sending light and love to those areas for rain when needed, our growth for trees, does that help? Like when you asked to send prayers to North Korea and Biden. um, yeah. And Mary often says, okay, send love to Trump too. Send love to all the candidates who likely will not get voted for, even though they should. Send
Mhm.
love to the candidates that you don't like. Send love to the murderers. Send love to rapists. Send love to people that you think hold the utmost darkness and evil.
Mm,
And then the skies will pour. The skies will pour because Mother Earth will weep in compassion for you.
mm.
She literally gave me that vision, like just pouring rain in drought areas because Mother Earth is weeping in relief, not in pain, in relief, because we are humble enough to pray, and all deserve love. All deserve food. All deserve water.
Mhm.
All deserve forgiveness. If you cannot pray to send love to someone that you absolutely abhor because they've done horrendous crimes, do you not know that you can pray to forgive them? That you can pray that they be forgiven? That you can pray for them because they need it most.
Mhm.
And then the skies will pour. And Mother Earth will be so relieved for your compassion, for your humility, for your strength. And she will answer your prayers.
Mm.
It's going to be a good channeling on Sunday. I can feel it
That
coming.
is. Wow.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I kind of feel like this would be a good question for you. This YouTuber says, would it be a wise choice to live in Brazilian Amazonia right now?
Well, I mean, a wise choice, I would say, what is your spirit guiding you to?
Mhm,
If I say you have to follow the nudging in the soul.
mhm,
And if you are being led spiritually and it's just with you and you cannot shake it. It's like it's gonna be there going, tapping you, tapping you, tapping you.
mm,
Go.
mm.
What do you have to fear?
Yeah. It's versus being in fear about it, he
Mhm.
says.
Mm.
um, People who volunteer for organizations such as yours, people who volunteer for um, all of the really viable, real nonprofits.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they come from places where they haven't experienced drought, they haven't experienced even electricity shortage. It is going to be a change, it is going to be a transition.
Mhm.
Your body is going to be accustomed to food, the differences in food. That's the first thing
Yes.
in Brazil and
Yeah.
that area, Amazonia, is the food. Your body needs to be accustomed to how to ward off a parasite.
Mhm.
You don't, your gut isn't prepared to know how to ward off a parasite, and you are inevitably going to
Don't I know
find
it?
one, right? It's going to find you. um,
Seems like I collect them all anywhere I go in
Right.
the
And
world.
not that that's negative, he says. He says that they can do their own degree of cleansing, but also that there is an acclamation towards people who have been born on the soils, and they are born on the land, and they are born in the culture, born with the food, born with the poverty,
With
and
the
it will
temperature.
humble you. Born the temperature and the climate, it will humble you, and it will uplift your mind, body, and soul to the utmost grace, and you will be filled to the brim
Mm.
with love. Your cup will be overflowing. Your body may cry for a while, Mary said, but your cup will be overflowing. Your heart will be overflowing.
Oh, it took me a while. They used to call me Princess in the Pea because of my sleeping habits. I can sleep anywhere now after the years I've spent in the jungle, in the heat and humidity and the bugs and for some reason the animals all want to come and visit me, whether it's a bat in my hand or a spider and, whatever crawling on me. And I used to be afraid and I'm not anymore. And I'm grateful for that. But like you do, it is an acclimation, especially the climate because there's no AC where we are and there isn't when you're in the jungle most often. And but you learn, your body does get used to it. You do acclimate in time.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I
Mm.
feel the best when I'm in the jungle now. I'm like, oh my gosh, my head's itchy from this winter. I need to get back to the jungle, dry skin. My joints feel better, my lungs feel better. I feel better when I'm in the Amazon.
That
And
is,
many people say that.
that is so beautiful. That's
Mhm.
wonderful. Oh my goodness. Here is a question from another channel that I know here. He says, will atmospheric water generators ever get to Africa? What do you think?
Are you talking about the chemicals that they use to seed the sky? Is that what he's talking about?
No, I think this is an atmospheric water generator is this new plasma device that's coming about that it pulls um you know it pulls the condensation from the atmosphere and then purifies the water and then disperses it.
Well, usually those devices are quite expensive.
Right.
And unfortunately, in many of these developing countries, the government systems that they have in place are, and I don't mean to be negative or say anything bad, but there's a lot of corruption. And
Yes.
unfortunately, in the areas that we work, which is the rural areas, intentionally, there's very little support that makes it out there. As a matter of fact, the village we're moving in Mozambique, the education, it goes up to the third grade.
Well,
Third grade. And actually only about 50% of the kids make it to the third grade. So, they're 50, 75 years behind some of the more developed nations, Mozambique especially. So do I see that taking place in these regions? Not anytime soon,
I don't either.
because it's expensive.
Yeah.
These devices are expensive. And the expensive things just don't make it to these regions.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. They literally don't. You could, even if it came into South Africa, I have a feeling in a sense that it could go in through South Africa, but
It
even then
could.
there's still a long road to travel. And
Mhm.
you have different climates and activities going on when you're traveling on these roads. And
Mhm.
those people can literally be pulled over and that device could be taken. Like there's that kind of thing.
Desperation, and like I said, I feel very safe everywhere I go. However, desperate people, yeah, will do desperate things.
Right.
And when
Right.
you're starving, there is nothing more desperate.
Right, and you could trade in a lot of those things that come in, or those parts are taken and traded for funds so that people can eat. Not necessarily because anyone wants to hurt anybody, but it's just the
And it's the same in the Amazon too. I mean,
yeah.
I'm very fortunate. That's never happened to me, and I've been protected and blessed. And but you do see the look of desperation in people's faces. And what would you do if your children were starving?
Yeah, exactly. Mm. This is
Not that
interesting.
I'm
And
saying you would, but I'm just saying what
if you were
we
in the situation, you don't know what you can't be prideful enough to say, I would not, because you don't know what your crying child's hunger could cause you to want to do, right?
exactly,
There's
exactly. So
situations that we
feed
couldn't
those babies.
possibly think about, like we couldn't possibly even think about in our world being in those scenarios.
Yes.
Um,
I mean, maybe people watching, they've been hungry before and, waiting for their paycheck or, however they were providing for themselves or in their family life growing up, but to have consistent daily hunger for your entire life,
mhm.
it's different.
Yeah, he said he thinks that the military has used that atmospheric water generator, and he said perhaps they can help. But if you mean our military doesn't want to help. Let's keep it real here. Our military has no interest in helping. And our government, speaking of corruption, the only
Yeah.
way they want to help is typically to provide guns.
Hmm.
So I am not going to count on our, you know,
I think really the climate issue as far as rain is concerned, there's a great documentary. I'm going to go meet this man one of these days. His name
oh,
is
cool.
Mully. The Mully movie, Mully,
I
the Mully
saw the
movie.
movie.
Lotus and I are going to go meet him. And what
Oh, you
they
have to
did,
tell me when you do that.
I know, and what they did, what Mully did
Yeah.
to change the environment and the climate and create a microclimate. And it was through planting trees. And he had a vision from God, and everybody thought he was crazy. I don't want to give it away. Please go watch the movie, but you will see. And we see these stories a lot on social media. There's people in India doing it, how planting trees will change the environment.
Mhm.
And I believe that that is more likely NGOs, pulling the resources together than waiting for a device to do it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a great
At
point.
least for now, at least right now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so many boots on the ground is what I'm hearing from Mary. There's so many people coming together with hearts like yours, Teresa, and with
We
hearts like people in the chat who absolutely love Africa and have a heart for these children and have a heart for the soul in the land of Africa, you
And
know?
it still has 2/3 of the world's hunger issue on the continent, even with all of these NGOs trying to eradicate hunger. It still has, and even as much hunger as there is in Asia, Southeast Asia particularly, but also India, it still has 2/3 of the world's hunger crisis is in Africa.
For sure. My goodness.
The number 2 spot, percentage-wise, Caribbean. I just discovered that last week. I had no idea. Caribbean.
I'm not really surprised because it's always these places where these very posh resorts and rich areas, and then you only see that
Mhm.
if you're privileged enough to see that. Um, and then you step outside of your resort and it's like night and day. And you see the true pain of the land and the pain of the people and the struggle. And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I mean, those resorts support the land, it supports the
Yes,
areas.
they provide jobs.
There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with that. It provides jobs and food for families, and then it has its own place, but it's just the paradox of it strikes me
The
always.
disparity between the two.
Yeah, it's the same in Costa Rica,
Mhm.
it's the same in portions of Thailand. It's everywhere you go, you'll see this paradox. So
Yep.
I love what you're doing, you know. Have you ever heard of this? Someone in chat is asking, does the Save Soil movement in India, is that relevant for Africa? It's led by the
I'm
eco.
not familiar with that
I think I
operation
know
that
what
they
that
have
is.
there.
That's with Sadhguru, I think.
Is that Guru? No,
Yeah.
and what is it that they're doing to the soil?
It's the Save Soil movement. They're
So
probably regenerating. I know he plants a lot of trees.
I have actually I have heard of this. There's so much work to be done. I mean, there's so many ways that we can improve the farming, that we can improve the environment. Those are long vision, long-term projects. I do know the soil is fertile in Mozambique and South Africa where we work. And we have had bumper crops and really great produce come out of it. So as of now, the soil is pretty enriched. It doesn't mean it will always be. So our intention is to partner with an NGO that is their specialty is soil and farming practices for being able to have sustainable farming. So that's not what we do. I'm not a farmer.
But you can partner with
So
somebody
we
and
need to
of course your
partner with them.
organization will
So
need the
yeah,
funds to
we're
be able to
working
be
on
part of
that
that.
now, actually, for Mozambique, and we'll bring that into South Africa. So we're great collaborators, Mom's House for Children. And we always will be. There's a South African proverb we've all heard. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And with Lotus Koza, our regional director, who is just everything to me in this organization. He spearheads those collaborations because he is our commander in chief of boots on the ground in Africa. So he's the one that finds these other organizations and is the nucleus, if
Mhm.
you will. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming in. Is there anything else you would like to share with them before we close?
I'm so excited to get to know you. Please reach out to me at any time. And for those of you that are joining us on Sunday, thank you so much. I'll be there soon to be able to do food distribution, and it'll just, because I wring my hands over those kids. So thank you for helping us provide some meals that they desperately need. And that just changes everything. A good meal, it's amazing the difference that it makes in their energetic vibration. They show up hungry and they eat and they play I mean, it's just such a beautiful thing. So thank you for trusting us with your donation. And I'm so excited for what we're going to learn together and the inspirations that we're all going to have after this channeling on Sunday, on Easter Sunday. So thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. And the links are at the top of the chat. Is givebutter.com / Pamela Aaralyn. And then I will see you on Sunday for another powerful channeling. And I'll go until I'm drained. You know how I am. I'll go for a
Yeah.
long time.
Yes.
And you'll get to see this beautiful face here with Teresa from momsHouseForChildren.org, where you can go check out her charity. So, and let's give some huge shout out to Anya behind the scenes, who did a
Anya.
ton of work for putting this all together.
Snaps. Snaps to
Yeah,
Anya.
Anya is like the technical queen to help everybody out with all of our deep technical struggles.
Yeah, because we're the same that way. You're better than me, Pamela.
A little bit, only because I have her and I go to her and I'm like, hey, so there's,
Oh, thank you, Anya.
and she has worked relentlessly to get this channeling up and to get everything working and to make sure that, that you have the donations. And just thank you so much for her and for you. And for everybody, all the beautiful super chats today, and those of you who have donated already just by doing this, just by listening to this channeling and talking to us about this beautiful person here who's been my friend for so long. And it feels like when I support your charity that it's like it's so close to home because it's you, and I trust where all the money's going, and I trust it's not the same as just giving to a charity and I don't even know the people and just hoping that it gets to the kids. Like I get to see
Yes.
the pictures and I get to see it and I get to see the videos and I get to, you come back and you tell me about it and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is everything that we did this
So
time.
grateful. I mean, you've been here every step of the way, and you were there for our first fundraiser, and here you are again. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for your generous spirit. And I pray for you to be blessed
All right,
always.
YouTube, signing off YouTube. I'll be here with you in a moment. Teresa will sign off for
Okay.
YouTube for now. And YouTube, I'll see you again tomorrow. We'll do another channeling that's different than this tomorrow. All right.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Okay.